And I think one of the things that I'm really aware of when I do talks about disability and gender is I'm mindful that I don't want to really talk about my sisters in a way that objectifies them. And I was trying to think about how to engage people in a way to think differently about disability. And I mean, there's lots of ways that we can talk about disability in the context of moving beyond sort of the individual. And, so there's the medical model, which tends to see, our lives as tragic. And that the disability rests within the individual. And that more often than not, we want to be cured. That we're not okay with our disability, that our lives would be much better if the disability was not part of our experience. And in that context, healthcare providers usually, medical professionals are the ones that are the decision makers or the gatekeepers in our lives. So that's one way, and that way is very much prevalent in whether we have access to services, because we have to get a doctor's note, we have to have someone verify that our disability is actually legitimate and also long-term, which might seem a bit odd, but yeah, we tend to, for ODSP, for any kind of supportive housing, someone else has to be the one that determines our experience of disability. And if our disability is invisible and we're not quite there yet in terms of talking about what that looks like over the longer term, it still is something that has to be decided by someone else. Another way of looking at disability is through the social model. And that is that disability in and of itself is socially constructed. Similarly, along the lines of gender and along the lines of race or class. So all the other places where there's intersectionality of oppressions, that disability is also, a social construct. And that if we lived in a world that considered people with disabilities, that we would be living in a world that would not have stairs, or that would have options besides stairs, that would have TTY phones available everywhere, that we wouldn't have to be thinking about alternate format, that we would be doing all of our resources in a variety of different formats, and that we would be thinking about accessibility versus accommodation. So again, just kind of holding on to those two perspectives, that when a woman is coming in for services who has experienced abuse, an organization wants to be inclusive, but it may be working from a perspective of addressing her needs as part of an accommodation, rather than assuming that at any time a woman coming in could have some form of disability experience. And oftentimes in the area of law reform or any kind of legal justice framework, that more often than not, women with disabilities tend to be seen as an undifferentiated group. That we're this kind of homogeneous group, and so, again, going back to the part about intersectionality, that you might not think about differential treatment based on a person's experience of disability, because we are all going to be at an unequal playing field. And I think that for those of us that are doing social justice work, that we need to also include disability in looking through a social justice lens in supporting women. And that law reform really does need to come from a place that looks at the unique experiences that woman is bringing to her conversation around her experience of violence, but not othering her in that experience. And I think that's a sort of a fine line, but I think a really important piece to consider. And not unlike the ways that we support women in other, from other communities in ensuring that she does have access to equality and equity in terms of the law.